Hello, everyone. So this is your first at-home video assignment. This is my first time making a video for at home. So again, I'm going to try to minimize how long this is. I do not want any of these videos that you're watching at home to be more than 10 minutes. So I'm also going to apologize if there's any background noise. It is football Sunday, so there's people at the house getting ready for the football game later on. So, our learning goal for Tuesday is to know the difference between translations, rotations, and reflections. Yesterday, we talked about movements, we described movements, and we did it very informally. Today, we're going to continue to describe those movements of the shapes, but we're going to use the formal mathematical vocabulary. So, there are three phrases that describe the movements we have been exploring more precisely. It says match each phase with the definition. So moves every point to a point directly on the opposite side of a line. So if you think about what we were talking about yesterday or on Monday in class today, if you're watching it for homework like you should be, we talked about in the video there was a line and it moves to the other side of it. That would be like a flip. So this here, I want you to think of a flip if it moves every point directly on the opposite side of the line. So a flip is the same as a reflection. So if you see shapes that have been flipped, let me try to focus this a little bit better. A flip is a reflection. Okay. Moves every point around a center by an angle in a specific direction. That's a lot of wording here, but the main thing we want to pay attention to is moving a point around a center. So that is a turn. And I'm hoping yesterday that some of you guys, when you thought about other words to describe a turn, you may have said rotation. So a rotation is the proper mathematical word for turning a shape. Okay. And then moves every point in a figure a given distance and direction. That is just a slide. And that is our translation. Okay. So what I want you guys to keep in mind is a flip is a reflection, a turn is a rotation, and a slide is a translation. So now we're going to do that. And we're going to describe how these shapes move using our new vocabulary words. So if we look at this one, we see that it's still facing the same direction. This has just been slid over. So this is a translation. So we want to use complete sentences here. This shape was translated to the right. Okay. And I'm looking at this one as our first image. We actually call that the pre-image. So our shaded one is going to be our pre-image. Our pre-image was translated to the right. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really trying to get this to focus. Okay. This next one is a bit difficult because it looks like a rotation because it's turned. But if I turn my paper, now it looks like it's just been flipped. So this has actually been flipped across a diagonal line here. So this one is a reflection. A lot of students make this mistake here, thinking that this is a rotation because the shape itself has been turned, but a diagonal reflection looks similar, but not exactly to a rotation. So this shape was reflected over a diagonal line. between both shapes. With a reflection, the line of reflection, the line in between them, the line's always going to be in between them. So it should always be like this point should be the exact same distance from the line as this point is from the line. And we'll talk more about reflections next week. So the shape was reflected over a diagonal line between both shapes. Okay, and our last one here, this one is a rotation around this point here, the point in the center, and it has been rotated 180 degrees. So yesterday or in the video today, you guys watched the rotation about a quarter of the way. This one's gone 180, so like halfway around a circle. So this shape was rotated around a center point 180 degrees. And again, we'll talk more about rotations and describing the full rotation around next week. But the big thing is knowing our vocab words. So translation, it just slid over. Reflection, it has flipped. Rotation, it has turned. An additional one to remember is the pre-image is the first shape. The original shape that is being moved is your pre-image. The shape after it's moved is called your image. Okay? Okay, and our last one, how can you tell the difference between a reflection, a translation, and a rotation? So, a translation does not change the way the shape is facing. A reflection changes the way it is facing to look like a mirror. So if this line here was a mirror, it's looking back at itself. It has been flipped. And a rotation turns the figure. Okay. So this is what we are going to talk about in class. We're going to do activities identifying the difference between reflections, rotations, translations. And if you guys have any questions before class begins about this video, please let me know during homeroom.